Hi everyone, I'm Teacher Joy. I'm so happy to talk to you and teach you here. Before I talk about the topic, I want to tell you something. To be honest with you, I'm not really a great talker. In Korean, we say 말주변이 없어요. 저는 말주변이 없어요. Anyway, for my short videos, since they're only 1 to 2 minutes long, I usually, prepare the script and then memorize it and then speak. But speaking for a long time like this, so I'm just going to look at my notes. I started filming short videos around last summer, and wow, it's already been almost a year. At first, I felt so incredibly lacking, but I checked and realized I've already filmed about 100 videos. First of all, whether I am good at it or not, I'm just really satisfied with the fact that I did something consistently. You see, I've spent most of my career focusing on graduate school research and tutoring Korean to expats working at Korean and international companies. I think the biggest reason I ended up on this path is because my bachelor's degree was MIS, Management Information Systems. So that background definitely influenced me somehow. But crucially, for my master's degree, I studied Korean education and informatics. So more than anything, I keep doing this work because I'm a master of language education. For a long time, I wanted to research and teach Korean so badly. I worked various part-time jobs and took on many side gigs just so I could buy books and linguistics journals to study. But at some point, I realized I can't go any further acting like this. That's why since last summer, I made up my mind to finally put myself out there and let people know who I am. By the way, someone recently gave me some advice about the audio quality of my videos. There are actually two major reasons why I haven't been using a microphone until now. First, it's because of my cats. Second, I have allergic asthma and rhinitis. So sometimes my voice isn't very clear. This is actually the same reason why I couldn't record 유나의 이야기 consistently. Even when I start recording, there are times when my voice gets completely blocked up or I get too short of breath to finish it. Also, I have a confession to make. When I record 유나의 이야기, I absolutely hate recording the slow versions. There are two reasons for this. First, and I really always emphasize this, I once met a learner who had been studying by constantly listening to only the slow versions. And oh my gosh. He spoke Korean in a way too strange way. Really strange. I only spoke slowly so my learners can catch and understand the individual pronunciations. But it made me feel like I was teaching some weird, unnatural Korean. So I really hope you to only use the slow versions to practice individual pronunciations. It is absolutely not the rhythm or accent of normal, natural reading. Second, because my little cats, I would say just one syllable and then have to stop and then wait until the cat stopped making noise before saying the next syllable. It took up so much of my time when recording. So now, well, even if you can hear my 침 소리, saliva? How do you say that? Water from the mouth, or breathing in the audio, I've decided to just go ahead and record anyway. And you know how you occasionally hear a male voice in my recordings, especially 유나의 이야기? That was actually my husband. But lately my husband is so incredibly busy with his own work that he can't help me with my educational recordings anymore. It's sad, but from now on I have to do it all by myself. Now the cats. He's throwing up. Just a second. 다녀왔습니다. Okay, I'm back. Just like you saw, I'm busy with all the noises, the cats, and everything. Okay, so here's one. And lastly, also people sometimes ask me about my English. To be honest, I still have a hard time understanding news like CNN, and there are many things I can't say properly in daily life actually. Especially my pronunciation, I think I'm just lucky, which makes me sound fluent. My English is always lacking, so I feel like I study it almost every single day. I really want to teach Korean well, but teaching Korean in Korean is only possible for intermediate level. For beginners, you need to have a bridge language, like English. So anyway, my plan is to gradually move into a direction where I use more Korean than English. Will that even be possible? Anyway, the more I talk, the more the flaws in my English show up here and there. Guys, don't get me wrong, this content is still edited, so my language skills are not that great, not perfect. Everyone is imperfect, so that's natural, okay? So the point is, you don't really have to envy me at all. I'm nothing amazing. Nothing in my life has ever come easy, so I'm nothing special. I'm always living a life of constant effort. When I prepare for my classes, I spent so much time agonizing, 고민해요, agonizing over how to choose easy words or find simple explanations. But what you guys see is condensed 1 to 2 minutes of all those hours of agonizing. So let me say it again. I'm nothing amazing. It's just that the effort I put in seems to show through at least a little bit. Honestly, if the results were worse than the effort I put in, I probably would have quit it already. 아이고. Anyway, what I actually wanted to talk about today was word order. Okay, let's talk about word order. If you open any Korean textbook, it says the word order is SOV, right? Subject, object, verb. Well, in my opinion, that's only half true. Calling it SOV makes you feel like the object has to be there. But in Korean, it's different. You see, Korean has historically been an agricultural society. Farmers are very affected by nature. Floods, droughts, things we can't control. Because of this, the concept of controlling or acting upon an object is a bit weaker in Korean compared to Western languages. So the object, the thing being acted upon, isn't always a must-have in a sentence. I actually spent 4 years researching the notorious particles in, 는, and 이가. I even wrote my master's thesis on this. I couldn't put every single thought in my thesis, but my conclusion was this. Defining Korean as SOV is just a general linguistic label. I think the real word order of Korean is about moving from the big picture to the specific detail. And the most important thing in this order is the situation. This invisible difference is why so many learners find Korean so difficult. But hey, once you shift your perspective just a little bit, it actually starts to make sense. Those scary particles 는, and 이가 are tied to this. It's not about where you attach them, but in what situation you use them. Honestly, explaining this in my thesis was not good. 악몽, nightmare. Why? Because it's like a spectrum. In English or French, grammar likes to have clear boundaries, right? Black and white. But Korean, it's like trying to draw a line in a sunset. Like, where exactly does the red and the orange begin? Do you know? The border is blurry. Okay, let's go back to the word order. Here's a universal rule in a language. Talk about what we both know first. If you and I don't share the same starting point, the conversation just breaks down. For example, if I just say he's nice, but you don't have no idea who he is, we can't talk. In linguistics, we call this definite. Basically, it falls into 3 categories. Number 1, something we already talked about. Number 2, something right in front of us, like this phone. Number 3, something I'm sure you will recognize even if I haven't mentioned it yet, like the earth. You might have read this in a textbook, but it's a crucial background for what's coming next. Because Korea was an agricultural society, we developed a high context way of speaking. We don't need a lot of words to understand each other. A look in the eye is enough. In Korean, omission, leaving things out, is actually a part of grammar. In English, you list everything clearly, right? But in Korean, especially with close friends, sentences get extremely short because it's more efficient. We only bring all the parts back, the subject, the object, when we are in a formal situation or meeting someone for the first time. So 는 and 이가 are not actually about whether something is definite because in a conversation, the subject is always supposed to be definite anyway. Think about it. Even in English, if a professor says, we're going to talk about poklad today, or the poklad, you might think, we're talking about a specific aspect of it. I learned this from books, so I don't have that native intuition. But linguistics says that even in English, you have a choice. But in Korean, you must have context. Without the situation, you can't even begin to explain how to use the particles. Sound hopeless? Don't worry, in basic conversations, you often don't even need to use the particles. I struggled with a and the in English for so long. Now I kind of feel it. It's the same for you. Watching K-dramas and movies is the best way to feel Korean, but I'm here to give you the map so you don't get lost. I have so much to say just about the word order, but the one thing I want you to remember today is known information comes first. Let's look at a simple sentence like, I like Korean food. In the textbook SOV order, I is 저 or 나. Korean food is 한국 음식, like, 좋아해요 or 좋아합니다. So you get 저 한국 음식 좋아해요. This is a perfectly fine natural sentence. Someone might ask, isn't 저는 한국 음식 좋아해요? Yes, that's also correct. In that case, 은 or 는 shows that the whole sentence is a generic statement. General information about the subject. But does 는 always mark a generic statement? I don't think so. In my research, I defined it like this. 은 or 는 limits the focus to only the subject that the verb applies to. Hard to grasp, right? It's not exactly like the in English. The implies to a noun, but 은 or 는 applies to the situation, the sentence, or even the verb. So this is the point. It must be overwhelming, right? If that sounds too hard, just let it sit in the back of your mind like it's fermenting and get back to it later. Remember, generic statements are divisible. Sorry about my English. It's just, I don't know if it's really hard words or not because I studied linguistics in English. Anyhow, that's a fancy way of saying there aren't always 100% true. For example, let's say the lion is the king of the jungle. Is every single lion stronger than the other animals? Not necessarily. Some are weak. Korean grammar actually acknowledges this. If I say 사자는 with a stronger emphasis like 사자는, a native Korean speaker's intuition immediately feels the opposite. Wait, so the others aren't kings? I feel like I'm saying, in this specific case, only the lion is the king. Again, it's a spectrum. It depends on the speaker's intention, the situation, and what you know about the listener. But generally, 은 or 는 is a tool to limit the scope of what you're talking about. So the topic marker, right? That's why so many teachers have different ways of explaining it. It's just that complex. By the way, 은 or 는 isn't our main topic for today, so let's get back to the word order. I'll say it again. While Korean is technically an SOV language, in real life, it often works differently. I'm going to show you a sentence structure that doesn't exist in English, but sounds 100% natural in Korean. Imagine we're at a restaurant. You might ask, what's good here? In Korean, you'd say, 여기는 뭐가 맛있어요? 여기는 뭐가 맛있어요? And since both the server and you are already at the restaurant, you don't even have to say 여기, right? It's given. You can just look at them with big, eyes and ask, 뭐가 맛있어요? 뭐가 맛있어요? But let's look at the first sentence. 여기는 뭐가 맛있어요? Is the generic statement? Strictly speaking, no. But more importantly, let's look at the word order. Is 여기 the subject or is 뭐 the subject? Grammatically, a subject should be closely tied to the verb, right? But if you say 여기 is the subject of 맛있어요, it sounds like the restaurant itself is edible and tastes good. The building isn't delicious, right? So 여기 isn't really the subject. Instead, 뭐 is the real subject that explains what is delicious. As I keep emphasizing, Korean starts with the larger scope. It mentions the most recent topic of conversation based on the flow of the dialogue first, and then provides the description or narrative about it. But what if you are at the very beginning of the conversation and a topic hasn't been established yet? Or what if what you want to say is just an event or occurrence itself? In those cases, typically the sentence is arranged in the order of time, place, doer, and then the action or state. Still not quite getting it? I think it might be easier to understand if we look at some examples. For instance, the common ground I share with all of you is just me as a teacher and the Korean language. I don't really share my private life on social media, so the shared information between us is limited to those two things. Now imagine I want to tell you I'm sick today. In that case, I would say 오늘 저 아파요. Just like I mentioned earlier, it follows the order of time, doer, and state. I didn't mention the place where the state of being sick is happening because it's not usually that important. But here's the thing. In Korean, I could also say 저 오늘 아파요. 오늘 저 아파요. 저 오늘 아파요. And these two versions actually have slightly different nuances. This is the word order of Korean that I really want to talk about. If what I want to highlight is the event or the occurrence of my condition itself, I would say 오늘 저 아파요. But if what I want to talk about is my specific state or condition, I would say 저 오늘 아파요. However, in this context, saying 오늘 저는 아파요 or 저는 오늘 아파요 would actually be incorrect expressions. See? Just think about how different this Korean sentence is from English. I won't go into a long, boring explanation, but I want you to just sit with that for a second. Think about how Korean moves. It's so different, right? I've studied this for many years, and I've realized it's impossible to explain it just one simple sentence. That's why I'm talking so much. If you have any thoughts, please leave a comment.